The Railway Board detailed the sequence of events leading to the crash today. The Coromandel Express that moved on the loop line instead of the main line due to a possible signal problem rammed into a stationary goods train carrying an iron ore. The entire impact of the collision was on the passenger train and not the goods train owing to its weight, resulting in a massive loss of lives. Now, the Rail Minister today has clarified on the rail accident. He said that it was an issue of electronic interlocking. The Rail Board further has now recommended for a CBI probe into the matter. The question, of course, is where will the buck stop? Who is responsible for the lives lost? And what of those who are still searching for their loved ones? Here's the full report.
इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंटरलॉकिंग में जो चेंज किया जिसके कारण ये दुर्घटना हुई, जिसने भी किया, जो भी इसके कारण है वो इन्वेस्टिगेशन से निकलेगा। तो जो कमिश्नर रेल सेफ्टी है वो अपनी इंक्वायरी रिपोर्ट जल्दी से जल्दी देंगे। जैसे इंक्वायरी रिपोर्ट होगी सारे तथ्य पता चलेंगे, लेकिन एकदम क्लियर इसका रूट कॉज, इस इतने दर्दनाक, इतने भयानक एक्सीडेंट का रूट कॉज ऑलरेडी आइडेंटिफाई हो गया है। जो कुछ अब तक का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है उस सब को ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे की इंक्वायरी के लिए इस पूरे मामले को सीबीआई के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है।
As more clarity emerges on what caused the Coromandel Express to derail, anxious relatives of passengers on the train are still searching for their loved ones in every possible place before heading to a morgue. This group of men have come to the Bahanga station looking for Nitam Roy from Malda, who was on the train.
তার ফোনটা যদি হসপিটাল থাকে হসপিটাল লোক তো ফোনটা ধরবে, কিন্তু সেটাও ধরছে না। আমরা সেটা নিয়ে আতঙ্কে আছি আর কি। তার বাড়ির লোক আতঙ্কে আছে, কান্নাকাটি করছে।
There are others in the hospital, anxious relatives who are still looking for their loved ones, hoping that they may be in hospital, hoping that they may be alive, but unfortunately so many people have died. So right now it's a very stressful and painful time for the families who have not yet been able to locate their loved ones.
Unsuccessful at finding their relatives in hospitals, despairing relatives have reached morgues.
यहाँ से क्यों मतलब शिफ्ट किया जा रहा है?
भुवनेश्वर में फैसिलिटीज है रखने के लिए ज्यादा दिन के लिए, इसीलिए हो रहा है। थोड़ी हमें काम करने दीजिए।
For some, even though they have been told their loved ones are dead, the search continues. This man is going to Bhubaneswar after searching all hospitals in Balasore.
छोटा मेडिकल जितना था कमलपुर सब ढूंढ लिए मगर कहीं नहीं मिला। अब जा रहे हैं भुवनेश्वर, वहाँ पर यदि होगा तो अल्लाह यदि सहारा जाएगा तो हो जाएगा।
Track restoration work will be completed soon as the railways are now completely focused on resuming railway services on this very important rail route. But for those who've lost their loved ones or don't even know if their loved ones are dead or alive or are yet to recover the bodies of their loved ones, for them, resuming their own daily lives and going back to normalcy is going to be much more difficult and time consuming. With Manish Kumar and camera person Pavan Kumar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And we will continue to bring you reports from ground zero as those people continue to search for their loved ones. But on the show tonight, we will talk about a CAG report titled Performance Audit on Derailment in Indian Railways. Now, this is a report that was tabled in Parliament in December 2022, and it assumes a lot of significance given this accident. The report says that 75% train accidents in the last 4 years were caused because of derailments. 26% derailments are linked to the maintenance of tracks. Now, here's why this report is important, because this report actually finds that funds for this crucial track renewal work actually declined by over 23% over the years, and even the funds that were actually allocated were not fully utilized. Priyanshi, my colleague, breaks down the details.
A CAG audit report flagged several lapses in India's rail safety a year before the Odisha train tragedy. Number one, during 2018 to 21, the report says there were shortfalls ranging from 30 to 100% in inspections by track recording cars that are used to assess railway tracks. Secondly, under the dedicated rail safety fund, the priority expenditure fell while that money was being spent on non-priority expenditure instead. The government in fact spent just 79% of the total budgeted expenditure for rail safety in this time period. Next, the expenditure for the renewal of tracks too fell by 23% from 2019 to 2020. Next, the targets for track renewal have not been met and even the allocated funds for this have not been utilized. Next, the warnings have been ignored even though 26% of train derailments are linked to track renewals and 3 in 4 train accidents are due to derailments. Lastly, the report also says that there has been a staff shortage. There was a 9 to 36% shortfall of required civil engineers across zones during 2018 to 21.
Well, this CAG report essentially begs the question that when it was tabled in Parliament, did anybody really take a close look at it? And if these recommendations and the findings of these reports were considered, why are we still staring at these over 270 deaths in this tragic accident? Joining us on the show tonight, Alok Vats, leader of the BJP, Shama Mohammed, spokesperson of the Congress Party, Anil Tiwari, railway expert, and Shiva Gopal, General Secretary, All India Railsmen's Federation. Thank you all very much for joining us. I want to begin by asking you, Mr. Gopal, your first reaction to some of the key findings of this CAG report.
It seems that though what we feel that it is need to be studied in detail, but about the performance what railways have been in the last not 1 year, even few years, the electrification has been almost tripled, the track renewal has been doubled, the new lines have been much more than the previous years.
Right.
I don't know that under what circumstances CAG has objected this, but we are not objecting to the report of the CAG. But at the same time, I can say that a detailed study is required.
Right.
And
all of the things that you've said about how rapidly things have expanded and grown is a point well taken. But Mr. Anil Tiwari, if I can bring you into the conversation on a very specific aspect of this report. And let's just narrow down the focus because this report says many things. The report says that 75% of accidents, major accidents in the last 4 years was caused because of derailments. 26% derailments are linked to track renewals and track renewal expenditure is down by 23%. Now this, if you just put these 3 points together, points to the fact that there is something very seriously wrong, there is something very seriously amiss that needs to be considered. Mr. Tiwari.
I will speak in Hindi.
Please sir, please.
देखिए मैडम, पिछले जो हम देखेंगे काकोटकर समिति की रिपोर्ट के बाद पहले तक जो खन्ना समिति की रिपोर्ट है, उससे पहले जितनी भी रिपोर्ट्स आई है उसमें कैग की जो ये रिपोर्ट है उसी का सारांश है, उसी का ये निचोड़ आप बोल सकते हैं। सभी में यही बताया गया है कि डिरेलमेंट के लिए मेजर ये बहुत बड़ा एक इश्यू है, उसी को पुअर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बोलते हैं, जिस पर पैसा लगाने के लिए, इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए रेलवे को हर कमिटी ने बोला है। और उसके बाद में हमारा जो मेजर फंड है वो हम सेमी हाई स्पीड ट्रेन या किसी और चीजों में खर्चा कर रहे हैं, पर हमारा जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है उसको मजबूत करने के लिए खर्च नहीं हो रहा है। वही ये सीएजी रिपोर्ट में 1129 रिपोर्ट्स के बाद में भी अगर रेलवे को उसका ये भेजा जाता है और बताया जाता है कि इस पर एक्सपेंस करना है और वो नहीं होता है, तो ये बहुत बड़ा एक जिसको आप बोल सकते हो कि ये एक सिक्योरिटी के साथ में खिलवाड़, ये इस रिपोर्ट में यही नजर में आ रहा है। और सबसे बड़ा जो डिरेलमेंट का रीजन है, और डिरेलमेंट के बहुत सारे कारण हो सकते हैं, सिर्फ एक ही कारण नहीं है, इसमें मल्टीपल 24 रीजंस दिए हुए हैं। आपकी जो ट्रैक है, अगर आपकी रेल पटरी है वो बहुत पुरानी हो गई है, उसमें जंग लग रही है, तो भी वो एक डिरेलमेंट का कारण है, उससे भी डिरेलमेंट कॉज होता है। नए ट्रैक की भी डिरेलमेंट होता है, काम चल रहा है तो डिरेलमेंट होता है, पॉइंट्स अगर पुराने हो गए हैं तब डिरेलमेंट हो सकता है। कई बार बोगी में अगर कोई प्ले है, जैसे बोगी जो के नीचे बोगी लगती है उसमें अगर कोई प्ले है, व्हील्स के साथ में कोई कमजोरी है तो डिरेलमेंट हो सकता है। 75% क्योंकि आप एक ट्रैक के ऊपर एक गाड़ी, एक रेल दौड़ रही है, रेलवे दौड़ रही है, तो उसी से सब कुछ कनेक्टेड है। सबसे बड़ा मेजर रीजन यही।
इस रिपोर्ट में ये भी लिखा है कि रेल सेफ्टी एक्सपेंडिचर जो है वो जो बजट में असाइंड है उससे भी कम हुआ है। क्या इज दिस अ कॉज ऑफ कंसर्न? मैं
आपको एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देता हूं। जो रेलवे का ट्रैक है उसकी मॉनिटरिंग करने के लिए लाइनमैन होते हैं जी। पहले के जमाने में ऐसा हुआ करता था कि 2 लाइनमैन, मतलब एक जो 5 किलोमीटर का सेक्शन है वो 2 लाइनमैन एक साथ उसको इंस्पेक्शन करेंगे उसका, और उसमें कोई भी कमी होगी तो आप उसको रिपोर्ट करेंगे। पर रेलवे ने पिछले कुछ वर्षों में वो 2 से हटा के 1 व्यक्ति कर दिया है। एक तरफ सीएजी की रिपोर्ट बोल रही है कि आप इस पे और जोर दीजिए, और दूसरी तरफ उसमें पैसा जोड़ने की बजाय और चीजें जोड़ने की बजाय हम उस पर कम कर रहे हैं। अब अकेला आदमी है, वो इंस्पेक्शन कर रहा है या नहीं कर रहा है ये भी नहीं पता चलता है, और अगर वो कर रहा है तो उसकी आंख से कुछ चीजें चूक भी रही हैं। तो दो लोगों का रहने का नेसेसिटी इसीलिए थी ताकि वो डबल इंश्योर हो सके।
ओके, तो ये तो आपने एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट रेज करा है, बट ये रिपोर्ट ये भी कह रही है कि देयर इज अ 9 to 36% शॉर्टफॉल ऑफ रिक्वायर्ड सिविल इंजीनियर्स अक्रॉस जोन्स. So there's also an issue of understaffing that has been raised over here. The question that we're asking is that, you know, have the recommendations of this report or the findings of this report not been considered by the rail minister? Has the government been sitting over these findings? Why has anything not been done? Alok Pats.
See, Rishika, at the very outset, I will first pray for those who have lost their lives and may rest in peace. Secondly, I will thank the people of Odisha who very promptly came to the rescue site and tried to help the government to rescue the people who are dead and injured. Also the state governments who landed there, and instead of doing politics they got into rescuing the people there. Now when you come about the railway thing, already the rail minister has identified the cause, that there was electrical fault because of which this happened, and some people were talking about Kavach. You see, Kavach is a...
No, sir, we are not talking about Kavach. We are talking about the findings of the CAG report. I think the Kavach story is something that the rail minister himself has clarified on. And today the rail board has also lent enough clarity on Kavach. So I don't want to go back into Kavach, please.
1 lakh crore was allocated in the last budget, and 20,000 per year was to be spent. Now during this regime, electrification has tripled. You see, bogies have been replaced, the old bogies.
So you're not answering my question. I'm talking specifically about the findings of the CAG report. Be that as it may, all of the expansion that may have happened, all of the good work that may have happened, there are some serious safety questions that the CAG report is raising. And today we are talking purely about safety of people traveling by Indian Railways.
What CAG report you are talking about, I'm not aware of it. And I don't know what they have said. But yes, in the track monitoring, still some, you know, there has been a lot of improvement. The new rapid car system has been introduced, manpower has been removed from there, so it has been upgraded. But this particular incident which happened, you see, the train detoured from its own track because of the failure of the signalling. Even catch or any Kavach or any other thing would not have avoided this. So this was, somebody tinkered with it, it has to be probed. Somebody played mischief with it, it has to be probed. Now as the minister says, he has identified but not naming the person involved.
You are saying you haven't looked at the CAG reports. We are putting out some of the key findings that are relevant. Some of the questions that we're asking on the show tonight are on the basis of those findings. Shama Mohammed, do you want to respond to that?
नहीं, मुझे आपसे एक सवाल पूछना है, ये हिंदी चर्चा है या इंग्लिश है? आप जो हिंदी इंग्लिश मालूम नहीं उसको मत बताइए ना, मैं मलयालम से शुरू करूं बोलने के लिए, मैं मलयालम में बोल सकती हूँ, या मलयालम में संसारिका बुआ विडारी के मनस्ला वंदाले, ये गलत है ना कि कोई हिंदी जो बोलने वाले उसको बुलाओ फिर मलयालम में हम कर सकते हैं ना? What sort of debate is this? you make somebody continuously speak, at least then you should, there are viewers who want to
Mr. Tiwari had requested to be speaking in Hindi, and therefore that request was granted. He's an expert.
Like that,
he's an expert. Shama Mohammed, if you want, I can paraphrase what he said for the benefit of you and our viewers.
You watch this because I have my own language. Then I'll speak in Malayalam.
If you want, I can paraphrase what he has said for the benefit of you and our viewers.
I know what he said. I understand Hindi.
Shamaji, beg your pardon. Hindi is a national language known all over.
We are not debating about Hindi here. Shama Mohammed, would you like to respond to the CAG report, please?
Don't compare it with regional language.
Shama Mohammed, would you like to respond to the CAG report, please?
You can't have somebody on a debate saying he doesn't know.
We will apprise you, ma'am. Next time we have some panelist who is going to be speaking in Hindi, we'll let you know in advance.
Yes, thank you very much.
Please go ahead.
First and foremost, there's somebody sitting here and says, I don't know what is a CAG report, and everybody knows what is the CAG report. Now, the problem is after 2014, there's a government who is not accountable. That's the sad part. You should have something called some moral high ground and take accountability. Yeah, there is a part one, there's a CAG report which clearly says of the safety issues, how the tracks are not maintained at all, they are defective. All those things are said in the CAG report. You have the Parliamentary Standing Committee, which has come out heavily on the rail board concerning the safety of the tracks. So there are many reports, and of course the signalling which did not take place, that's criminal negligence basically. So the issue at hand is, I am upset today. I am sad. I am horrified because there are many of them. Some children have become orphans. Many of them have died because the government of India, the Bharatiya Janata Party, where this Prime Minister Narendra Modi has not taken into account the various things. And also it clearly says, the CAG report, that the funds given, there are not enough funds, you've mentioned it. And whenever the funds are given, they are not used. Now, he spoke about, we have done new trains, we have electrified. That doesn't matter. The loss of life matters. At the end of the day, we have lost nearly 300 life because of negligence. 3.4 lakh vacancies in the railways as of now. Out of that, 1.4 lakh are for safety.
Okay.
Why can't you fill these vacancies? You see, these guys are overworked. The basic thing, one, there is of course the neglect of the tracks. The signalling persons who are involved, they're all overworked. I fail to understand. There are vacancies in these railroads. Why is the government not filling up these vacancies?
Mr. Gopal, do you want to shed some light on that? Mr. Shiva Gopal, very important point that Shama Mohammed has raised about vacancies, about the fact that, even the CAG report has highlighted the shortage of people.
There was shortage of the people, there is no doubt in that. But this year, 1,48,000 posts have been filled, and out of that, about more than 1 lakh posts belongs to the safety cadre. So this year, we are a little bit comfortable. Still, there is some need. I hope that in the near future, there are vacancies for more than 1 lakh in the safety cadre, and there railway is taking steps to fill those vacancies also.
But the report very categorically says, sir, that steps are not taken for adequate staffing for rail safety. So that's a very specific point that has been raised in the report.
If we because of this accident, if this issue is being raised, I hope that the railway is always having this much vacancies because of the recruitment process and other things.
Okay.
But this year, railway has taken a lead and they have recruited 1,48,000 people.
Right.
And the next they are going to recruit 1 lakh, more than 1 lakh.
No, what's the point? I want to ask you a question. What's the point? We will go and recruit. When you had the vacancy, you did not do it. You are, the railway ministry is the cause for this death. You have blood on your hands. Remember that. You have blood on your hands. Mr. Vaishnava has to resign.
The lines are being drawn and the
You
staff
just so
is not
relaxed,
being
sitting there so relaxed, just speaking.
Please,
This is
Shama,
not your child.
don't
This is
teach us,
not
don't
your
teach
child.
us about the railway and railway safety. Do you remember 1,000 people lost their lives?
If all of you are going to speak, if all of you are going to
What
speak,
do you have
nobody
to say
can
on that?
understand.
1,000 people died during
There is-
Narasimha Rao's
I think
No,
regime.
this isn't
And
about
there
you
is
guys,
accident.
sir. I'm really sorry.
Political
I'm
issue
really
is
sorry.
not there.
This is not
Because
the
the government of the
conversation that we
Congress,
wanted to
the
have.
similar
There is a
was there.
report that was tabled in Parliament.
Even I
Mr.
can
Gopal,
say that
the
these
bottom
governments
line
have
is the
increased
bottom line
number of
is
the recruitment.
there was a Comptroller and Auditor General report tabled in Parliament not very long ago. This report was tabled in Parliament in 2022, December 2022. There are serious questions that need to be answered over what was done about what this report actually says.
No,
The
the
big
safety
gaps
is not
in rail
important
safety.
like
Did
that
anybody
anymore.
actually look at
They don't
this?
care about
Were
the tag
these
anymore. The
gaps
government of
were
Jamaica
these
does not
gaps
care
trying to
about
be
tag.
filled?
They don't care
I
about
think in the
anything.
light of this accident, these are some important questions to be asked. Questions that we will continue to ask here on NDTV. I'm afraid I'm going to have to leave it at that. Thank you all very much for joining us on this discussion. But the Railway Minister today has said something very interesting. He says that it was a change in the interlocking system that was behind this triple train crash in Odisha. What exactly is the electronic interlocking system? How does it ensure smooth rail movement? We break down the details for you.
So Ashwini Vaishnaw, the Railway Minister, very significantly said today that it was a change in the electronic interlocking system that might have caused the accident. What is electronic interlocking system? We'll come to that. But very quickly, let's try and explain you through animation as to what exactly happened and at which point did the interlocking system went wrong. So first, remember, this is the Coromandel Express and the Howrah Express on parallel tracks on the up main line and the down main line, and it was at this point where the Coromandel Express was led off the main line and it went to the loop line and went on top of the stationary goods train that was already there at one of the loop lines. Now this is essentially the point at which there was either a signaling error or there was improper routing. Now both signaling as well as routing is controlled by the interlocking system. Let's try and understand what the interlocking system is all about. Now remember, it is an electronic interlocking system that essentially controls rail movement and makes sure that one train can switch from one track to another smoothly and safely. The other important point is that it is the interlocking system that ensures that at no point is one train attempting to get on a track on which there's already another train, which is what happened in this case, where two trains were on the same track and that subsequently led to the derailment. So the interlocking system basically works, it's an integration between switch points, signals and track circuits. Now what are each of these? Let's go to that graphic on where we explain what these three things are. Switch points essentially are movable sections of a track which lead one train from one track to another. So these switch points have to be activated well in advance so that a train essentially can pass over the switch point and move from one line to another, say from a main line to a loop line. They manipulate the entire interlocking system. So these are crucial because they lead one train from one track to another. Now switch points work very closely with track circuits. Now they have to be aligned in a way so that there's a signal for a train to move over them and move to the next track. Now what are track signals? Let's go to that point. Track circuits are installed to detect a train's presence on a particular track. Now track circuits make sure that they detect and determine on time that a track is either occupied or vacant. Now this is crucial because it's only after the track circuits actually detect whether the track is occupied or vacant that the movable parts of the track, which are basically the switch points, they become activated and finally lead the train from one line to another. Now, what is the electronic interlocking system? Now, the interlocking system we've understood, but when this entire system is controlled by a software, it becomes an electric interlocking system. So basically, there are electronic communication networks that control switch tracks and signals and make sure that they communicate well and they are activated well in advance for the train to switch one track and go to the other. Now in this scenario, what could have gone wrong? See, the final probe report is yet to be out, but let's examine the various scenarios. Railway Minister has said that a change in the electronic interlocking system led to the Odisha crash. But what does it actually mean? So it means that actually when the Coromandel got off the main line and went to the loop line, there was either wrong signaling or faulty routing. That means that switch point got wrongly aligned and the train went to the loop line, or the other aspect could actually be that there was improper signaling and the track circuits could not detect that this particular track was already occupied by a stationary goods train and the Coromandel got onto the loop line. So these are the possible scenarios in this particular case. It will become more sort of clear when the final probe report is out. So let's go back to the animation very quickly once and try and understand that point. So this is the point. So here if you can see that there are 4 tracks, track A, B, C, D, and it is the signals, the switch points and the circuits that make sure that there is only one train at one track at one given time. So it has to be a seamless communication between these elements of the interlocking system to make sure that no such incident happens.